Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Was that planned? I want to begin tonight addressing something I told you I would study last time we got together, and I did study it. I couldn't help but think about it. And that is coming from what was said about Josiah and what he did at Bethel. This will be in 2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 20. Double check that. And anyway, this is in the 18th year of Josiah. He has started reforming the land. He's cleansing the land. And it says that he went to Bethel, and when he's there, it says, and he sacrificed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars and burned human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. And the question arose because the newer translations, they're translating that slaughtered or killed. And the reason I got off on a tangent, and it was a tangent, and I want to correct myself tonight. I want to make sure you understand I am correcting myself. That word that is translated as sacrificed here, in the Authorized Version, it is translated overwhelmingly sacrifice. But about half the time of that number, it's also just offer. And then only one or maybe, I think it's like 5 or 6 times, it's translated in when I say the Authorized Version, I'm talking about the King James Version, as slaughter or kill. So when I saw this in the English Standard Version, I thought, well, okay, that's what it is. He's just taking the bones and offering those bones. But I went back and I looked at what the man said in 1 Kings chapter 13 and verse 2, the prophet that was sent from Judah to prophesy against Jeroboam and that altar. What he said, and it's almost exactly what you read here in 2 Kings chapter 23. But the real killer is found somewhere else, and it's in Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 30. Now let's just kind of trace this back. We're in the 18th year of Josiah's reign, which means it's about 622 BC. The man from Judah, the prophet from Judah, is around 930 BC. So about 300 years earlier, this man prophesies exactly what happens here. Now, again, he uses that term, so there's room for that. But going back now nearly 900 years, we read this in Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 30. Now, this is Moses by inspiration of God. He's speaking for God. God is speaking through him. And he says this about what's going to happen at this time that we're reading about now, at the time when the children of Israel are being dispersed and being paid back for their sins. And just taking it out of context here, and he says, I will destroy your high places and cut down your incense altars and cast your dead bodies upon the dead bodies of your idols, and my soul will abhor you. So he is going to do that. He was going to cast dead bodies upon the altars, and the idols. So that makes me believe that, yes, that's exactly what it was. It was dead bodies, and they did offer them there on the altar. So I take all of that back, and I'm sorry that I led you astray if I did. I've addressed this with my Lord. I've addressed it with you now. So anyway, so forgive me if I led you astray. But tonight we're going to pick up with, now somebody's mentioned the different pronunciation of this name, and I can't get it out of my mind. It's Hubbakuk. I'm telling you, it's always been Hubbakuk. But somebody is saying Hubbakuk, and I just can't get that out of my mind for some reason. But anyway, we're going to be talking about him tonight. But before we do, last time I felt so pressed for time that I didn't do this. Where we are historically, we need to understand the situation that Josiah leaves when he's taken out of the way, when he dies in battle. And so this is from our guidebook on page 158, and this is what is going on now. Babylon is. I have a map coming up. We'll look at that later on. But Babylon is now the ascending power. The Assyrians are descending. They're falling into chaos. They have been defeated and will be, the city of Nineveh will be taken in 612, 613 BC. So we're getting close to that time. But this is the power, the Babylonian power. The Babylonians and the Medes got together and they went against the Assyrians and will ultimately take and run the Assyrians out of Nineveh over to Haran, I believe it is, and then later on to Carchemish. And this gives you the background. He gives you a good sketch of the background here. Things continued as they were until 605. Let me put that in context. We're talking about 609 when Josiah dies. So things continue as they were until 605 with Necho of Egypt in Carchemish. So Necho is up there protecting his territory by being in Carchemish, trying to keep the Babylonians. He's now fearing the Babylonians. He fought with the Assyrians for quite a while just to try to defeat and stop the Babylonians. But now he's up there. There's a vacuum between him and the Babylonians. And so he's up in Carchemish. And so anyway, he's holding control all the way to the Euphrates River and the young kingdom of Babylon gathering its strength. And then the crown prince of Babylon, he's not yet the king, Nebuchadnezzar, launched a surprise attack on Necho's forces at Carchemish. He pursued them all the way to the border of Egypt. No one knows what else he might have done at that point because he received word that his father had died. Taking only a few men, Nebuchadnezzar sped straight across the desert back to Babylon. I'll show you the map after a while. It'll be a while before I show it to you. But straight across, desert. That's all there is. And so he went over there to take the throne of his father, but he left his army to come through the various governments of Palestine. That is what was left of the Assyrian part of Palestine up there and the other areas, accepting the allegiance of the peoples. And this is when Jehoiakim, whom we've already been introduced to, submitted at that time and became Babylon's vassal. So at the point we're going to pick up tonight, Babylon is the big power. They are the ones who's scaring everybody. So that's why we're going to be reading Hubbakuk. And what's interesting is we're reading Hubbakuk right after the time when we looked at Nahum last time. Nahum prophesied against Nineveh, which was destroyed, 613, 612 BC. So he prophesied against Nineveh, that is, and the Assyrians. And now we're going to read Hubbakuk prophesying against the coming power, and that is the Babylonian. I'm sure most of you who have studied the Bible very much know that when I say Babylonian or Chaldean, I'm talking about the same people at that time, okay? So at that time, they were also known as Chaldeans. You remember that Abram was from Ur of the Chaldees. And so this is that same area. It's the old Babylon area, the old empire of Babylon, way back when. So now you have Hubbakuk is going to prophesy against all of against this Babylonian power. So we're going to pick up. I'm not going to, because of time constraints, I'm not going to try to read all of this. We're going to read quite a bit of it. And then move on and look at some more historical stuff tonight and maybe a map and get some of this into our minds a little more clearly. So let's pick up now with Hubbakuk. We don't know exactly when he prophesied. It was probably between 640 and 615 BC. But in essence, the complaint that Hubbakuk has is that God is going to use a really evil nation. The Assyrians were bad enough, but now you have a really evil nation, the Babylonians. He's going to use them to chastise and to crush Judah, the people of God, evil people of God, but people of God. And so he's wondering about, is that the right thing to do, et cetera. And so he's appealing to God. And then God is going to turn his attention to the Babylonian situation and them facing their own destruction down the line. So let's pick up now Hubbakuk chapter 1 and verse 1. The oracle that Hubbakuk the prophet saw. O Lord, let me stop here. I wish that I had stuck with my plan to read the first 2 through 4 verses here. and let you guess when it was written. So stop and just forget about Habakkuk right now. I want to read these 4 verses to you. See if you can tell what this might fit. All right? O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. That sound like sound like a time that we live in at all to you guys? I mean, it sounds exactly like it in a lot of ways. So anyway, he goes on, and this is the Lord's answer to Habakkuk's complaint. Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told. For behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, who march through the breadth of the earth to seize dwellings not their own. They are dreaded and fearsome. Their justice and dignity go forth from themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards, more fierce than the evening wolves. Their horsemen press proudly on. Their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, swift to devour. They all come for violence, all their faces forward. They gather captives like sand. At kings they scoff. At rulers they laugh. They laugh at every fortress, for they pile up earth and take it. Then they sweep by like the wind and go on. Guilty men, whose own might is their God. And this, again, now, this is the Lord's response to him, that this is what he's going to be bringing. That the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, are going to be coming, and this is a description of them that God gives. And then Habakkuk replies again, Are you not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have ordained them as a judgment, and you, O Rock, have established them for reproof. You who are of purer eyes than to see evil and cannot look at wrong. Why do you idly look at traitors and remain silent when the wicked swallows up the man more righteous than he? You make mankind like the fish of the sea, like crawling things that have no ruler. And now he goes from talking about God to talking about the Babylonians, or in particular the Babylonian king. Verse 15. He brings all of them up with a hook. He drags them out with his net. He gathers them in his dragnet. So he rejoices and is glad. Therefore he sacrifices to his net and makes offerings to his dragnet. For by them he lives in luxury, or I like the actual Hebrew there is his portion is fat. Anyway, he lives in luxury and his food is rich. Is he then to keep on emptying his net and mercilessly killing nations forever? I will take my stand at my watch post and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me and what I will answer concerning my complaint. And so Habakkuk then makes his second complaint here. And again, it's basically the same type of thing. And then he says, I'm going to go and take my station, and I'm going to wait to see what God says about all of this. So, anything up until this point, we're moving pretty fast, I realize, but anything up until this point that anybody wants to point out? All right, let's move on then. So in verse 2, God begins to respond again. And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come, it will not delay. Behold, his soul, now speaking of the king of Babylon, or the prince of Babylon, behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him. But the righteous shall live by his faith. And of course, when you read that, you think of at least, I'm sure you do, 3 times in the New Testament where that very statement is used. And it's speaking about how the righteous will get through all of these things. He will live by his faith, by his faithfulness to God, and by his faith in God. Now this is, I don't know, I didn't look at the other translations, and so I'm probably going to get egg on my face here, but verse 5. Moreover, wine is a traitor. Now, what's interesting there, I've often wondered why did he use the word wine there? And then it come to find out that the Dead Sea Scrolls has a copy of Habakkuk. And that word that's translated wine there in the Dead Sea Scrolls is wealth, which fits with the rest of it. Moreover, wine is a traitor, or wealth is a traitor, an arrogant man who is never at rest. His greed is as wide as Sheol. Like death, he has never enough. He gathers for himself all nations and collects as his own all peoples. Shall not all these take up their taunt against him with scoffing and riddles for him and say, woe to him woe to him who heaps up what is not his own. For how long? And loads himself with pledges. Will not your debtors suddenly arise, and those awake who will make you tremble? Then you will be spoiled for them, because you have plundered many nations. All the remnant of the people shall plunder you. For the blood of man and violence to the earth, to cities and all who dwell in them. He will use this very term again before he's finished with this prophecy. Woe to him who gets evil gain for his house, to set his nest on high, to be safe from the reach of harm. You have devised shame for your house by cutting off many peoples. You have forfeited your life. For the stone will cry out from the wall, and the beam from the woodwork respond. And so again, he's speaking to the Babylonian power, whoever he may be, whether it's Nebuchadnezzar or it's Nebuchadnezzar's father. But he's speaking to them, or Nebuchadnezzar's replacement later on. Verse 12, woe to him who builds a town with blood and founds a city on iniquity. Behold, is it not from the Lord of hosts that peoples labor merely for fire, and nations weary themselves for nothing? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Woe to him who makes his neighbors drink. You pour out your wrath and make them drunk in order to gaze at their nakedness. And again, speaking to that Babylonian power. You will have your fill of shame instead of glory. Drink yourself and show your uncircumcision. The cup in the Lord's right hand will come around to you, and utter shame will come upon your glory. The violence done to Lebanon will overwhelm you, as will the destruction of the beast that terrified them. For the blood of man and violence to the earth, to cities and all who dwell in them. What profit is an idol when its maker has shaped it? A metal image, a teacher of lies. For its maker trusts in his own creation when he makes speechless idols. Woe to him who says to a wooden thing, awake, to a silent stone, arise. Can this teach? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in it. But the Lord is in his holy temple, that all the earth keeps silence before him. I'm going to stop there for a second because I want to point out again that this is not, again, all about Judah, and it's not all about Israel. That's the center point of it. But it's also about the world, that area. And so God is addressing this problem with these idols and the worship that went with that. And he's going to address that problem not only in Israel and Judah, but also in these other nations. And so he's dealing with this now. He's bringing this forth. And again, remember that there are already, I'm going to call them Jews, although they're not known like as that yet, getting close to that time. But Israelites are in all the nations around them. They're all the way over to what is modern day Iran, and probably even over into close to India. And so they are over all of that land. They have been taken captive, and they are a leavening influence. They're bringing a knowledge of God, of the true God, to these people. And so now these prophecies are coming about, and God is directing these prophecies to these leaders of those nations and speaking to them about these idols that they're using. And so this shouldn't be lost on us. So anyway, and of course, probably you missed it because I did several times. That last statement that he made there, you know, all these worthless things that you guys bow down to, you say to a stone, arise, you say to a block of wood, speak, or whatever he said about it. And they have no profit. They have no breath in them, no nothing. And then he contrasts that with this statement, but the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. And so this is a statement about who this is speaking and the majesty of that one that's giving these prophecies and speaking to these people. There's a big difference between Nebuchadnezzar and the God of heaven. So Habakkuk then begins a prayer, and I know we have really run through this quickly, but we'll spend some time on some other stuff before it's all over with. I'm going to read my plan was to read the first 5 verses of this prayer of Habakkuk. It's actually a psalm, and it's written in a particular meter, I guess. I don't know what Shigionoth is, but anyway, that's what it is. Let's read now chapter 3 and verse 1. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet, according to Shigionoth. O Lord, I have heard the report of you, and your work, O Lord, do I fear. In the midst of the years, revive it. In the midst of the years, make it known. In wrath, remember mercy. And I, again, point that thing out, because this is what's happening. When things get bad, the children of God need to know that God is still in control of those things. We talk about this all the time. I don't know how many conversations I've had recently. Just a few minutes ago, Mark and I were talking about this is a weird world anymore. This is just bizarre, the things that are going on here, and it's not anything I've ever seen, and I'm not sure I want to see much more of it. But things are totally changing, and things are becoming more and more dangerous day by day. If I'm wrong about that, then point out that that's the case. I'd love to hear that that's not the case, but that's the case. And when you think about that and think about all of these threats that can easily be perceived around you, that still God is in charge. And as Ian said one time, I may die, but I will but die. I still belong to God, and he will take care of me. And so this is the idea that's expressed here. But he makes sure that he asks God in his anger to remember mercy. Okay, so let's go on, and I think probably I'm going to skip on down now to the last part of this. Go down to chapter 3 and verse 17 now. Now he's finished up he's getting ready to finish up the song, and then he ends with this statement of faith at the end. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food. The flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's. He makes me tread on my high places, to the choir master with stringed instruments. So he finishes up this song, this poem, with this statement about his faith. And again, I point you to that as we face the things that we face day in and day out. Those of you who have not yet reached old age, let me tell you, I believe the old guys that used to say it's not for wimps. I learned that the hard way. Old age is not for people who are not ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. I had no idea it was going to be like this. And anyway, so when you think about that, it doesn't make any difference. All of this stuff, I'm glad to wind down, get right down to it. I'm glad to wind down. Looking forward to that time when I can enter into that rest and awake in the likeness of the Lord. And may it be so. All right, so that's the end of Habakkuk. Anybody have anything they want to point out or any questions? I can probably muddle them pretty well, yes?
So was Babylonia considered worse than the Assyrians?
Say again?
Yeah. Was Babylon considered worse than the Assyrians?
I don't know. By some people, apparently. Probably by some people. I mean, they had the Assyrians were, from what I can understand, were the first at being that brutal. And especially, not just the brutality, but we've talked about this before, but the brutality of taking people away from their homes. You know, it's bad enough to have a war come through your place. And then for somebody to come along and take you up out of your place and move you to it, no matter what your age is, and move you to another place. And then you remember the words of the Lord. He said, I'm going to chase you even into that captivity. I'm going to follow you with the sword, even into that captivity. So the Assyrians were particularly good at making you not feel comfortable at all. Day by day, you didn't know whether you were going to live or die. And that's the situation that they were facing. The Babylonians are learning that from them, and apparently, in some people's opinions, they are worse. So that's the impression I get. Yes, sir.
Back to the sentiments now remind me of Job 13, Job chapter 13. So they'll be slain again on that person.
Yeah. That's a powerful statement there, right? Yeah, absolutely. Did you have your hand up? No? Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. We're going to move on now to some historical stuff. And I couldn't figure out whether to show you the map or the outline, so I just did both. And the map, believe it or not, is same size for the most part that it would have been had I shown you the whole thing. And this is from Bob's book, and it gives you some idea of the scale, somewhat, although it cuts off a lot of it down to the south there, of this territory. This is a little premature for the time we're going to be talking about with Jehoiakim, because even in the days of Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah being the last king of Judah, so you're looking at, I forget how many, Zedekiah was 11 years. I think Jehoiakim was 11 years. Jehoiakim, I'm not sure. Jehoahaz was 3 months. So whatever that is, 25 years, thereabouts, maybe 30 years at most, that you're seeing this waning of Judah, and it will eventually go into captivity, and that little eye down there where Judah was at that time will close, and it will be all the Babylonian Empire. So this is the area now, and I want to point out to you, I'm not sure we'll be reading it here. I forget what I put. Yeah, I adjusted that, so yeah, we're good. Turn with me to 2 Kings. Again, chapter 23. Let's begin back now in verse 31. 2 Kings 23, beginning of verse 31. You remember that Pharaoh Necho was going up to Carchemish, going up that way. I don't think it names that city, but he was headed up that way to fight with the Assyrians against the Babylonians in 609. And as he's passing through, he has to go through Megiddo, which some people say was by this time in the hands of Josiah. And so Josiah has a somewhat of an interest, if that's the case. He has an interest in appearing to be on the side of the Babylonians. And so he goes up to face Pharaoh Necho, and he dies in battle there. And so the people of Judah choose Jehoahaz. Let's pick that up. Verse 30, we'll do back up to verse 30 of the same chapter. Talking about Josiah. And his servants carried him, that is Josiah, dead in a chariot from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's place. So let's continue to read on. Jehoahaz was 23 years old. That's important, I think. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. Now, most of you recognize the fact that cannot be Jeremiah the prophet. First of all, this says he was of Libnah. Jeremiah was of Anathoth. And there's also this problem that you have with Jeremiah being told that he's not to have children. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 2. He's told not to marry. He's told not to have children in that place. So as far as I know, Jeremiah never had a family. So this is not Jeremiah. Verse 32, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. Now, I'm going to stop here. We'll pick up there in just a minute. So if you go to the Chronicles account, it says that that Necho deposed him in Israel, in Judah, in Jerusalem. So he has passed through. He has killed Josiah up at Megiddo. Josiah comes back dead in a chariot, and they choose Jehoahaz, who's 23 years old. For some reason, they choose Jehoahaz. He has an older brother named Eliakim, who is 25 years old at this time. But they don't choose him, they choose Jehoahaz. So how this happens, I don't know, but Necho deposed him at Jerusalem, but brought him up to Riblah. Can't remember where it was. I think that's it. But anyway, he brought him up there, and he put him in chains there, and then took him to Egypt. And I get the impression, I don't know if this is the case, but I get the impression that on the way, he stops and he makes Eliakim, or maybe he does it in Riblah, I don't know. But anyway, he makes Eliakim, that is the older brother of Jehoahaz, king of Judah. And he lays this tribute on him. And so then Jehoahaz goes on down to Egypt and never comes out of there. And there's a famous passage in Jeremiah. I think we read that last time. In fact, I know I did, about Jeremiah saying, don't lament for Josiah who's just died. Lament for the one who's gone down to Egypt, because he's not coming back ever. So you have all of those statements about this character, Jehoahaz. Picking up now in verse 35 of chapter 23 of 2 Kings. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold, that is the tribute that Necho had laid upon them, a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Now, why he did that, I don't know, but I suspect it was to make everybody really upset at this new king. The new king should have paid that tribute, but he didn't. Pharaoh Necho made him collect that tax from everybody else. So everybody now is upset at this situation. So continuing to read on. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebidah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans and bands of the Syrians and bands of the Moabites and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by his servants, the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord, to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon. So I think we're going to read on down to verse 7 here. Isn't that what it says? Well, 6, but we'll keep on going, I think, through verse 7. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. All right, so a lot there, but I'm not going to try to unpack much of that. The point that is being made here is that Jehoiakim now has been put on the throne. He's going to reign for 11 years. He has burdened the people of the land with this huge tax. And here he is paying the tax to Egypt. And now this guy, and we can find out in Daniel that this guy Nebuchadnezzar comes that way, and he's going to make him his vassal. So now not only does he have Egypt to deal with, he's got to rebel against Egypt, but he's got this new master that's even tougher than anything that he's run across yet. So you have this, by the way, this is the first time. Did you notice this? I hope you did. That when this happens, that this is the first time in the lineage of the kings of Judah that it does not go from father to son. Now there's a hiccup at Athaliah, yeah, but it does not go from father to son in this case. It goes from brother to brother, and so there's already a slippage. And so this is a sign of things that are going to happen later down the line. And when Jeconiah comes along, then you're going to see a much bigger statement from God about what his plans are for that promise that he made to David, and how that's going to change because they did not follow his commandments. So anyway, there you have it. You have Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego going to Babylon in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim. And so they are over there now, and you're going to see them. Yeah. Anyway, you're going to see that come up again as we go along the line here. That's really about all I have. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or subtract? No? All right. I would welcome it if you do have it. So I would encourage you to read and study this next part for our next time. And we will be getting into Daniel chapter 1. There will be an invasion. The first invasion will be following that and looking at that when we meet next time. I have a surgery scheduled for tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm going to be presentable. So Travis may be doing your Sunday morning deal. Anyway, thank you.